Why would a 26-year-old dad who runs one of Australia's fastest growing companies put his body through absolute hell to run a half marathon in his local city? I'm Jacob Carlisle. I run Hot Property, one of Australia's fastest growing businesses, and paid off my house at age 23. In this video, we're going to run through the grueling journey that it took to train and then compete in a half marathon event. And along the way, we're going to hit the 5 key checkpoints that will teach you the skills and abilities that you need to do hard things. And this all started around Christmas time when I was sitting at the table, picked up my phone, and found the concept of Misogi. The concept of Misogi is all around doing one hard thing per year. There are 2 rules to Misogi. The first, pick something that you have a 50-50 chance of being successful at, and number 2, don't die. Something that I was really concerned about heading into the race was 2 weeks prior, I had sustained an injury to my hip flexor where I just basically overstrained it, and it was really difficult to walk and exercise my legs at all, let alone run a half marathon. I hadn't done any running basically 2 weeks out from the race because I was just nursing this injury, trying to stretch, trying to recover as good as I could for the race. So unlocking checkpoint number 1, preparing for the day. Typically, when you're running a half marathon or training for a half marathon, they recommend you start training 6 months out. At this point, I had 5 months out from the race, so I had to expedite my training program and do everything just a little bit quicker. So it all started with just getting back into regularly running. It had been about 2 years since our daughter was born from when I last really been running regularly. We used to do 5K on a Sunday and we just stopped. The regime started with about 3 to 4 kilometer runs for the first week, and it was really just using that to get a gauge on my pace and how fast I was. So over the next couple of weeks, I started to increase it from 3 to 5 to 7 kilometers and trying to do that quicker and quicker or maintain a consistent pace throughout the run. If you want a copy of this, there's a link in the description. I'll give it to you for free. Now unlocking checkpoint number 2, the company you keep. I knew that if I was going to pull this run off, I would need some accountability partners and some mates to do it with. I didn't have to look very far because my business partner Greg and one of our mates Aaron were all talking about running at the same time. We were all fantasizing about how great we were going to run in New Year's and our New Year's resolutions. And Greg quickly brought some reality to our goal of let's do a half marathon. So when we decided to do this half marathon together and achieve this goal together, we really pooled our minds and our resources together to keep each other accountable, keep each other on top of our training regimes and where we needed to be if we were all going to do this together. I think this applies more broadly to life as well. Anything that you're going to look to achieve, you need the right people around you. You need the right support network, and you can't do it alone. We created a separate group chat called the Hot Property High Performance Center, where we would share our runs together. We would share what we're doing over the weekend and when we're thinking of going for runs, and keep each other really accountable to the goal that we'd all set together. So make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people with similar goals or the same goals so that they can help you achieve them. So now unlocking checkpoint number 3, it's the halfway mark.
That right there, that's halfway. Boo yeah.
From when the gun started to the halfway point, it was really just one of my regular runs. And I was just really comfortable in my run, in my stride, in my pace, and was just feeling generally quite good. And then I hit the halfway point and I looked backwards and went, wow, I've come a long way. But then I also looked forwards and went, wow, I've still got so long to go. It was at this point where I've moved from the familiar to the unfamiliar. It's going from the comfortable, going from your comfort zone, going from something that you know you can do, you know it's within your limits and within your means, to something that you go, wow, can I really do this? There's just question marks all over your mind, and you've really got to consider, is this something I really want? From the halfway point on, it was really challenging, and I really underestimated the self-talk that would be required to keep myself going.
I probably shouldn't be, but I need to catch Greg and Aaron, who left me at the 2K mark.
At this point of the race, I had separated from the other guys. My hip flexor had an injury leading into the race, and I was a bit slower than them, which is fair enough. They went and ran their race and beat me well and truly. But it was really at this point where I felt quite alone, surrounded by many different runners. It was on my own strength that I was going to get through this, and then I was going to continue to push, or I was going to give up and I'd see the other guys at the finish line. Now we're going to unlock a really hard one, and that's checkpoint number 4, blocking out the voices. There's one point in the half marathon course where the track overlaps and you pass an area, the finish line in fact, where you're going to come back to eventually after another 8 or 9 kilometers of running. And it was really challenging at this point because I'm running past the finish line and I can hear other people people finishing. I can hear the excitement that's happening at the end. And I just look ahead and think, I am so far away from that. I've got so much more running to do.
First walk, I'm at like 12 and a bit at the top of Queen's Park.
I started to hear that. I started to have those internal thoughts creep in, and I just locked in. This is the closest that I had ever gotten to quitting the race. Close enough is good enough was what was being rattled around in my head. But I remembered that there were 2 other guys that I was doing this with. They were keeping me accountable to this. I wanted to finish. I wanted to do this one hard thing for the year. So I locked in. The noise just sort of started to drown out, and I just started to put one foot in front of the other, started to pick up my pace again, started to run up the hill, and said, let's just get this thing done. Sometimes it's going to be really hard in life not to play the comparison game. Sometimes you're comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 10. Sometimes someone else is way further along the journey. It sucks in the moment, but you've got to push in, you've got to lock in, and you've got to focus on why you're really doing this and what you're gonna hopefully achieve at the end if you do lock in and not give up. And finally, checkpoint number 5, which is finishing strong.
It's the last hill. It's the last freaking hill. Let's go.
And I was just completely overcome, to be honest. I was in so much pain. I was in a lot of discomfort. I was just in awe that I'd really achieved this goal, and that all this last 5 months of training and hard work was paying off all in this one moment. I just locked in, crossed this finish line, and was just absolutely spent at the end. The only way to finish strong is to start strong and to consistently be strong all the way throughout. If I hadn't have done all the work in the lead up along this journey, I either wouldn't have finished, or I just wouldn't have been proud of this finish, because I would have been finishing with the back markers. And that was something that I was determined not to do. When you're investing, you're working hard and you're contributing to something that you may not see the results for a very long time, years in fact. And that can be really hard. That can be really hard to stick with the strategy, to keep the discipline in focus, to make sure that you continue to do this thing. But this is all part of finishing strong, and that's what I want for you.